American legend. Coming to you from the U.S. and streaming all over the world. This is Shotgun Sports USA. Get accurate, reliable information in every single episode. With interviews from the best shooters in the game, the best gun clubs across the globe, and industry-leading companies that revolutionize the sport. Find us online at shotgunsportsusa.com. Shotgun Sports USA is driven by Beretta, the #1 choice of champions. Also brought to you by Cole Gunsmithing, Rick Hemingway's Pragmatic Trap Sales, Castellani USA and Ultimate Shooting Accessories, Soundgear Phantom, Clay Target Vision, and Clay Shooter Supply. Welcome to the show. Better with Beretta. Pro tips from the #1 choice of champions.
I'm Zach Kienbaum, professional shooter with Team Beretta. At the World FITASC, Beretta is always one of the biggest sponsors at the World FITASC every year, and they always have the most memorable parkour. When we were in 2017, when we were in Budapest, Hungary, there was some old Cold War era Soviet-like comm towers, and they were throwing birds off these 4 giant towers that were just incredible. Big Beretta banner, 90-foot Beretta banners up the sides of these things. And if you were there, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But I think we always hear about the Beretta parkour. The Beretta parkour is always the most memorable at the World FITASC, and that's always a great memory.
My guest on the show today is a recent graduate from Texas A&M. He's full-time in the workforce and just as dominant at shooting now as he ever was, if not a little more. He is the 2023 Texas State champion and does not plan on stopping there. Please welcome to the show, Dominic Grossi. Dominic, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Justin. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, the last time I talked to you, you were still in college.
Yeah, it's been a while. A lot of stuff has changed for sure. Happy to be out in the workforce now. It's definitely a big change, but I love it so far. I'm out in the real world and kind of taking all the skills that I'd compiled over those years at A&M and making good use of them. So it's been really cool.
So you haven't had that moment yet where you say, man, I wish I was back in college.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I miss it. It goes back and forth because I really do love what I do. I'm working in construction for a company called Tandem Services in Houston and Galveston, and I really do love my job. But there's really no place like College Station. It's a really cool place to be and live. Some of my greatest memories were from my time in college with the shooting team, and obviously met Megan through college as well. So I owe A&M a tremendous amount and absolutely love it there and hope to get back there someday later in life. But don't get me wrong, that thought has definitely crossed my mind before.
Now, do you live close to College Station, or did you move?
I'm down in the Pearland area now, which is in South Houston. So I'm about 2 hours away. It's well within reach. I've been up there to go hang out with friends that are still there, that are still attending school at A&M. And, it's really not a far drive. It's just a hop, skip, and a jump in Texas time. So
yeah. How many national championships did you win while you were in college, or did Texas A&M win?
So I was a part of the first 2 that we'd won in recent years, and then they just completed their 3rd about a month ago now. And couldn't be more proud of the people there. As a senior, there was only 3 of us leaving and a bunch of talented shooters coming in the following year. So I knew from the get-go that it was going to be a very, very talented team, probably the most talented team that we had ever had. And it's just really cool to see what happens, kind of after you leave, because they took it and continued to build and did really, really well with it. And I can't say enough positive things about Kara, the president, and the officer team and all the shooters there that just did a tremendous job and putting our third national championship together. I'm super proud.
Yeah, that team seems to just be excelling every year. I mean, it's like the dominant team in college shooting.
Yeah, and it was an interesting thing because, of course, right as I was leaving, there was a new organization coming about, and they held a national championship of their own in Las Vegas, and I'm very kind of pleased with the way that it all transpired because Fort Hays State, who I know you guys have
Mm-hmm.
had on the podcast before,
Yep.
won that shootout in Vegas and then attended ACUY as well. So it kind of brought legitimacy to the ACUY championship, brought the best team from the Vegas shoot and had them compete against all the best teams attending ACUY. Because there were a lot of teams that only attended one or the other. So it kind of brought all of that together and created a true national championship in some sense, which, don't get me wrong, I still would have loved to have had some of the other big name schools there. I mean, it's never going to be an entirely true national championship without schools like Lindenwood and Schreiner there, because they're definitely two of the top 4 or 5 national teams in the country. But it probably worked out in the best case scenario in that, A&M was able to edge out Fort Hays after they put up a really dominant performance in Vegas, and can't say enough good things about either team. I mean, Fort Hays had me sweating just watching the scores roll in on Friday. I thought it was going to be close. That's kind of the cool thing about that event is that, you have the team aspect of it that basically makes it to where you can have one person on the team just have a great day and put up a phenomenal score and have it make all the difference in the end of the day, because you're shooting, it sounds like a big shoot, you're shooting a score out of 3,000 targets, but the margins are always within 10 to 15 at the end of the day. So every single target matters very, very heavily. And basically every person on the team plays a very, very large role in the outcome of how those shoots play out. So it's been really cool to watch. I'm relieved in a lot of ways that it's the leadership of the program is onto better people now that have great experience and have done great things with it, and it's a lot less stressful to be able to watch it from the sidelines now. So I've enjoyed playing spectator.
Yeah, you get to donate money now to the shooting team.
Yeah, I'm gonna need a couple years in the workforce before I'm before I'm head over heels into that one. But we got a great alumni network, and I do really look forward to giving back as soon as I'm able.
Yeah, all of this has been fun for you, and that's all in the past now, right? In school, now you're practicing being an adult. You brought up what you do for work in the construction business. How do you like doing all that? Was it what you expected it to be?
I don't think that you can ever become truly prepared for any career just based on your college curriculum alone. There's definitely a learning curve with anything. I think that I was prepared for the social and people challenges very well, just because I had networked very well and had pretty extensive experience just talking with people from the industry before, whether that was in the shooting community or through opportunities at A&M. They do prepare you extremely well to be able to assimilate in that kind of environment. But learning the work itself, of course, is, everything is tremendously specialized nowadays. So just learning codes of different municipalities and things like that, there's a massive learning curve for things like that. It's challenging, but that's what I love about it. It's the way that my brain is wired, and I'm a very studious person. I like to continue to learn new things and apply them to whatever area of my life I'm using them in. So it's been really cool. I've really enjoyed it thus far, and it's definitely lived up to the expectation for sure.
So what are you doing? What is your job?
So my job title is a project manager.
Okay.
One of the things that we do in particular is on the civil side of the company anyways, is we do a lot of concrete and roadway repair, and then a bunch of utility work underneath as well. So we do about half and half between those two activities. My biggest job right now I'm working on in Galveston is a job from Broadway Street all the way to the seawall, so about half the width of the island rather. And just going back and refurbishing all of the roadway and existing utilities that dated back to like the 1960s. So you find weird stuff. I mean, you find, utilities that are made out of clay and completely obsolete, and it leads to unique challenges that you don't see in other parts of construction, which is pretty neat. So, I mean, my day to day is, handling the budgeting and scheduling and all that fun stuff for trying to make everything go and stay in sequence and making all of that actually make our company money. So
Yeah.
that's the challenging part of it all. And then, of course, doing all of that in a safe and qualitative manner as well.
Yeah. So transitioning from being, I guess, shooting a lot in college, graduating, and now you're working full time and shooting, I guess, somewhat full time. What is that transition like?
Well, I'm kind of an outlier in a sense that I'm just extremely fortunate that I wound up in a position where my company is very flexible with me and allows me to get to a lot of the tournaments that I would like to get to. Um, there are some major differences for sure. Shooting back in college, let's say, for example, I was leaving for a shoot on a Thursday. I could kind of take the week before that to get ahead on assignments and study and, read a chapter or two ahead in the textbook to kind of prepare myself. That way I'd have that whole week to just mentally get into that state of being ready to shoot.
Mhm.
And just the way that my current job is, it's very sequential. It's a chain of events. And if one of those chains breaks, then the rest of it kind of falls out of place. So I don't really have the ability to get ahead like I did before. So it's required me to have to get ready for these shoots in a very, very quick amount of time. So, this last weekend, for example, at the Texas State, I left my job site at noon on a Thursday and was there at 6 a.m. and trying to get ready to shoot early in the morning, Friday morning. And the biggest difference is just trying to get acclimated to the shooting mindset a little bit quicker, because you're still thinking about work. Your mind's juggling 100 different outstanding items that you still have to think about going into the following week, and it never really stops, right? The work is always going to be there whether you're there or not. So it's been challenging to kind of segregate those two aspects of my life, but by the same token, I think I have a newfound appreciation for just being able to make it to some of these events. I find myself enjoying it a lot more. I don't have nearly as much pressure on myself at the events, it feels like, just because, the stress of the workplace is leaving as I'm going to the shoots rather than entering, feeling the pressure of the shoot coming on.
Right.
So that's been a welcome change for sure.
Yeah.
But definitely different.
Yeah. It's good that you have a job that allows you to do that. I'm sure you don't have as much time to practice as you'd like you were talking about, but at least you can still go,
Yeah, I found myself being more purposeful with my practices because you're exactly right. They're fewer and farther between. Again, I'm just kind of lucky in the sense that my job is, when I moved down to Pearland, I'm 5 minutes from Greater Houston Gun Club now. So it's kind of a very convenient opportunity for me to be able to shoot and get ready for a shoot if I need to. And all of that shooting is kind of situated right around my work as well. So it's just kind of a unique setup, and I'm very blessed and privileged in that manner. But yeah, all of my practices are definitely a little bit more purpose driven. Something in particular that I'm wanting to work on going in is going to be a focus for that given day. And then I'm just going to spend, whether it's 100 targets at the end of a work day, because I got an hour's worth of daylight left, or, taking the first half of a Saturday or whatever it may be. I know that all the rounds mean a little bit more because I don't have as many of them. So just making sure that I'm trying to do something in particular to improve and work towards getting to be better.
Yeah. Speaking of Greater Houston, a couple of weeks ago, you shot the Browning Briley and the U.S. Grand Prix, the FITAS shoot. They combined the two together at Greater Houston, and you finished the main M1 and the Grand Prix M2. How was that? Tell me about the shoot.
It's a great event. Last year was the first time that they put the Browning Briley and a World Cup FITASC event together, which you don't hear as much about the World Cup FITASC events now because the NSCA and FITASC kind of had that rift between them to where, they started the FITASC Grand Slam in conjunction with the championship tour, and the World Cup events have kind of lost some relevance in the United States, which is always been something that's kind of upset me to some extent because I loved those events growing up. They were some of my favorites. So getting one of those back at Greater Houston was super cool. Last year in 2022, I was super stoked to be shooting the Grand Prix. That was my focus, and then of course I wound up winning the main event just because that's typically how those things go.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
This year I had the same goal. It was my goal to shoot well in both of them, and shoot ran really, really well. My coach and one of my best buddies, Zach, stayed with us the whole weekend, and he was the one to take my title from me that I was trying to defend all week. So that was kind of cool. If there was somebody that you had to lose to, and you want it to stay in the family, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it was cool to see him win, and then of course really cool to see Megan get her first big win back since she started nursing school. She shot outstanding all week. She got close at the U.S. Open a couple weeks before that, so I could tell that it was coming soon. She finished runner-up in Tucson, and then back in full force now, which is awesome to see. I missed watching her compete at a high level for that year that she was gone, focused on studies, and couldn't have been a better shoot. Greater Houston did a fantastic job with all the amenities as always, and I love every shoot that they throw there.
Now, didn't Greater Houston just make some improvements of some sort?
Yeah, so they have all kinds of things going on. They're growing very fast. I know that they are trying to implement some new property towards the backside that I think will be potentially available to shoot on here in the next year or so. They've got all kinds of stuff going on in Greater Houston, but one of the things that they've been doing a really good job of in recent history, in my opinion, is paying a lot of attention to the target setting and just the quality of targets that are being thrown and the way that the event is run. I feel like in some of the years past, the focus was really focused towards the amenities. And while that's all well and good, I mean, you still want to throw awesome targets, right? So they've done a really good job of throwing challenging but reasonable targets. I think that they've kind of had a reputation in the past for throwing these crazy difficult targets. And don't get me wrong, they're extremely technical, and you can miss a bunch of them at a time, like I did this last week. It's very easy to miss in whole bunches and walk out of a station just feeling confused, but you're not going to get beat over the head with just these 80-yard crossers or anything incredibly difficult just due to insane target setting practices. So they've done a really good job of kind of normalizing all of that and setting a standard for having really good events.
I'm kind of thinking about the Grand Prix. Explain that to the people listening that may not know what you're talking about. How is that different than just a FITAS shoot at a tournament?
Right. So first and foremost, it's a 200 bird FITAS event. These World Cup events consist of the U.S. FITAS Grand Prix and the North American FITAS Championship. And basically, the Grand Prix and the Continental Championships feed into the World FITAS Championship in the summer every year. And you kind of calculate your World Cup winners by their performance in those three events. So they used to be held in conjunction with the Championship Tour, but there was a disagreement between the NSCA and FITASC about target fees and things of that nature. I won't get into the politics of it, but long story short, they kind of did away with having the World Cup events at the big shoots. So there's a number of clubs that still host all the events. They're kind of in a smaller capacity than before. You don't see the turnout that you saw 5-6 years ago. But it's starting to generate some interest again. You have clubs like Greater Houston throwing one. The Meadows has one coming up as well. The American Grand Prix will be there, I think, in a couple weeks in conjunction with the Trident Cup. So I'm hoping that they start to gain some momentum going forward because they are really important events in the grand scheme of things. And I was a little upset with the way that the NSCA kind of chose to handle that situation because I think that they're, in my opinion, akin to the regional championships for sporting clays, right? Those events in FITASC are what the regional sporting clay shoots are to the championship tour. So those are the best of the best FITASC events. And I'd like to just see good big clubs continue to show interest in them so that we can get bigger turnouts and start returning some level of prestige to World Cup events again.
Yeah. Okay. You leave Greater Houston, I guess the next week or maybe 2 weeks after, I guess it's the next week, you go to Texas State Championship, which was held at the National Shooting Complex, and 778 shooters were in the main event. And then you come out.
Oh, yeah.
You come out HOA finally. How long you been working on that? 7 years? 8 years? How long's it been?
It's been a goal of mine since I was a little kid. My first time really coming close at a major event was tying Corey Cruz for HOA at the 2016 Texas State Championship at Caney Creek. So that was, I guess 7 years ago now.
Yeah.
And I've in the years to follow, I have come close a number of times, finished runner up, had a lead going into the final day and fallen a little short. And, it's tough. You kind of have your work cut out for you when, you had Zach win this championship back in 2015, and the only two people to have their name on the trophy since then, up until this last weekend, were Corey Cruz and Bobby Fowler, who are two of the three Americans to win the World Sporting Clays Championship. So
Right.
You got two world champions kind of just all taking turns winning state titles, and then the rest of us just kind of scrambling to get as close as we could. So the level of competition in Texas is really, really high. It's one of the most competitive states in the realm of shooting that there is. And I'm just really proud to have my name on the same trophy as all those three names that I mentioned. Zach and Bobby and Corey were my childhood heroes growing up. So it's just really humbling to be a part of that. And definitely a relief after having come close so many times to finally pull that one off.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say before you went into that. The Texas has got unbelievable shooters. And with the three like you just talked about, I mean, three of the most dominant people in the sport, and you go out there and win. So I know you're happy about that, and say you're the Texas State champion. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm over the moon. It's just one of those ones that's always meant a lot to me personally. It's a lot of years it's the third biggest shoot of the year in the United States. I mean, it's bigger than most of the regionals most years.
I think there was 1,000 shooters there, right at it, I think.
Yeah. The attendance is incredible. Of course, the National Shooting Complex does a tremendous job. They've been hosting it every other year now for the past 5-6 years. So it kind of feels like you're shooting a miniature nationals in a sense. You're shooting 200 birds over 3 days with a lot of the same people that you'd be competing against at nationals, shooting at a really high level. And it's a really cool shoot. It means a lot to me personally. And I'm proud to be a shooter in Texas where there's just so many great shooters out there.
And it wasn't easy to win it either. I mean, think of all the stuff that went on, the weather, the courses were different than they normally are, right?
Yeah. So I'm, in addition to shooting, I'm on the TSCA, Texas State Sporting and Clays Association board. And one of our initiatives this year was to kind of mix things up. Cause like I said, we've shot at the complex for the state shoot 3 of the last 5 times now. So in the interest of kind of making things a little different, our president, Ben McAnally, had the idea to put the main events somewhere other than that main event road that we have every year for nationals. And so we had some parts of the back part of the property open for the main event. And then up on the hill, like where the K Cup is a lot of the time, was one of the main events. And then down kind of by the ski fields on the very north side of the property. They had a really good course out there as well, which was my personal favorite of the 3. And it was kind of cool to shoot on some different parts of the property. Of course, the weather definitely made things interesting too, and definitely might have lended itself to explaining why we shoot on the main drag as often as we do, because we ended up having to basically we gave away 4 stations of the main event on the green course of the 10. So you only shot 6 stations of the green course, and then we're just awarded the other 20 something odd targets free of charge. So it was a weird contingency plan, but I think it was the fairest and most equitable way to handle that situation. All of that being the result of a big storm that rolled through Thursday night. So the back part of the property was flooded, and I think the complex did a great job of battling through all the weather conditions with their staff and personnel and still putting on a phenomenal shoot, all things considered.
Yeah. Did I see pictures of traps like buried underwater, just like barely sticking up over top of water?
Oh, there were rivers flowing through that place. So, I
Really?
mean, I rolled in Thursday afternoon about 6 p.m. and almost as I went through the gate of the property, it was almost uncanny how close the timing was. The lightning rolled in, and I started hearing cracks on the back of my truck, and I'm like, "Is that hail?" And sure enough, it was a massive hailstorm for the next hour and a half. 45-mile-an-hour winds, crazy rain. We lost power. I know there's a bunch of people staying in the RVs on site that were without power for a lot of the week just because that whole area had outages. It was nuts. And then, of course, Friday it was muddy and still raining on and off. Saturday was beautiful. And then Sunday it came right back around and rained, and it was super windy all over again and 45 degrees. So you kind of had everything on the weather spectrum imaginable over the course of 3 days.
Well, yeah, it was funny because I was going through the pictures that were posted, and what kind of pants did you have on when you're standing on the podium? Were they like Hawaiian pants? What were those?
After this, I feel like I kind of need to prioritize that because that's what I'm really here to do.
Yeah,
So as much as I hate to do it, I mean, I'm almost embarrassed that I had to do it in the middle of the course just due to my own lack of preparation. But I walked off the super sporting course to go find a jacket and a clean pair of pants. Oh, and on top of that, I forgot to mention a guy in a golf cart sprayed me with mud as I was getting out of my truck in the morning. So not only was I freezing my butt off, but I had water and mud all over me. So I was just kind of a miserable morning, honestly.
yeah,
So I
sounds like it.
got halfway through my super sport, and I was like, you know what? I didn't come here to win the super sporting. Let's go get some level of warmth. Let's go find a different pair of pants and a jacket. So I was able to find a windbreaker from Briley of all places, and then had to go buy that pair of pants. It was the only pair of pants that I could find. And that's how we ended up with a pair of green and blue plaid pants on the Texas State podium.
You got them from the gas station down the street, didn't you?
I mean, just about a little thing set up next to a Walmart, like a little like secondhand store. I was, like I said, I had about an hour window to go find pants, and as much as I would have loved to have taken the 30-minute detour into La Cantera and found a nice pair of J. Crew pants, it ended up not happening that way. So we did the best with what we had.
I bet you don't throw those pants away,
Yeah,
or did
we
you?
might have to hold on to those. We might break them out for special occasions.
You brought up Zach earlier and how you kind of looked up to Zach. Well, Zach, he's come out with his training video.
I was super excited when he first told me that he was coming out with this video, and it was something that I've been pushing him to do for a long time. I was, he's got a wealth of knowledge, and me being one of the people that's really benefited from it. I've always just kind of pushed him to do some sort of mass marketing for all the information that he has at his disposal. So the video is super cool in the sense that you can go onto this website and kind of create a forum of questions and get responses back from Zach and kind of start a conversation online and then have all of that archived. So, let's say you have a particular chapter of the video that you have a question on, you can go in there and type up a query about whatever it is that you are curious about, and then Zach will get back to you, and then you can kind of start this conversation, and then you have that clarification posted there, for eternity in the website. So it's kind of a cool way to continue to build. It's kind of like a living, breathing organism in a sense, because it just continues to learn. But the content itself is incredible. It's something that I know Zach worked really hard on. Um, I know he put a lot of effort in it for the better course of a year, and the final product is outstanding. I've watched Anthony's video that Chris Claxton has done as well, and I know Anthony played a part in the production of Zach's video too. Just a lot of great minds coming together to come up with a really, really cool product.
I'll have to agree 100%. it's Zach's always been really easy to understand. You know, if he's showing you something while you're shooting. I mean, you know that prime example of that. He's very easy. You know, he's calm, and in this video, it's perfect. You know, it's got short segments that you don't have to sit there and listen to something for 45 minutes and have to remember what you listened to. You know, so I've really enjoyed it. I think they did a great job. It's unbelievable graphics involved. The videography is unbelievable. It's really, really sharp. I just don't understand why in about the third little segment, Zach was already sweating. Did you notice that?
You know, he was working hard. I know how passionate he is about these things, and yeah, I noticed the same thing about four chapters in or so, glistening coming off of his top lip, and yeah, you can tell that he's putting in some effort. I give him a hard time. That oh my goodness, he's gonna kill me when he hears that. But no, I noticed the exact same thing. You know, I'm sure I don't know where he ended up filming that at. I think it was somewhere in California.
Yeah,
Must have been hot.
it was in a sauna.
But yeah, that was a funny little anecdote for sure.
Yeah,
I don't know if I know he was definitely apprehensive going into making that video just due to all of the different things that go into it. And I know he's really, really proud of the product and all the work that went into it. So if that's the worst thing that we had to say about it, I think he'll still consider it a massive success.
no, yeah, it's you know, I was thinking about this the other day. If you take this video that they've made, and I think it's 56 different segments, I think is what it is,
Yeah.
and you listen to that, there's no telling how much money that you would have to spend on lessons, like physical lessons, to get the same amount of information. And you can go back and listen to this over and over and over again, take notes, ask questions like you're talking about, and have it forever. It's crazy
Oh, absolutely.
at the value of that. And it's not just a video. It's like quality. It's 4K. I mean, it's quality.
Right.
And I'm glad to see Anthony and Chris Claxton and his group of guys and Zach put all this together and make it what it is. I mean, it's unbelievable. It has to be the best one I've seen. I've seen a lot of them. It has to be probably one of the best things as far as
I
like
agree.
teaching video series that I've seen ever.
Certainly, you know, and I don't think that some of the younger people in this game realize just how much information we have at our disposal nowadays. You know, people talk about how good the shooters in America have gotten over the course of the last decade, and a large part of that is due to people like Zach and Corey and Anthony and Derek and all those other people out there that spent all the time learning it for themselves the hard way. You know, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there wasn't an abundance of coaching when they came up in the sport because it was still such a young sport at the time in the United States. So, you know, it wasn't until 2016 that Anthony first won the World Sporting Clays Championship, and then we've won a handful of them since then. So, it's kind of crazy to just know that they put in so much trial and error over the years, and this is the result of all of that. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and it's all very accessible now. You know, it's at the disposal for anybody to be able to see. You know, all of just about every great shooter in America offers lessons and content and material that they put out there. And, you know, we're just at a very cool place now where nothing is like a massive secret anymore. You know, like there's knowledge that's very easy to get to, that is not hard to understand, and definitely is a lot harder to apply than it is to understand. But it's all out there. You know, it's out there online, you know, in the shooting community, just by word of mouth, passing down experiences from one person to the other. And it's cool to see just how far it's evolved since then, you know, and that's one of the reasons why we're as competitive as we are now. I think shooting has become harder and harder to win in the past 5-10 years, just because of the knowledge being at the disposal of people from the get-go. You know, there's people that come up in the course of 3 or 4 years can become a very, very, very good shooter. Somebody like Eric Harvey comes to mind, who made the transition out of trap shooting and all of a sudden is winning regionals. You know, he's one of the best shooters in the United States now. So it's super cool to see all that accessible to the public. It's a great thing for the growth of our sport. And I'm happy that Zach's sweaty lip could have been a part of that.
Yeah. Oh, he knows I'm going to mess with him. Every chance I get, I mess with him. So he's going to expect it, from me. He might not expect it from you, but he's going to expect me to mess with him. So, but yeah, I agree.
I've got to give him a hard time. He took my Browning Briley title. I got to give him a little bit of a hard time.
Yeah, well, he knew you were coming after him at Texas State, and that's why he didn't go.
Yeah, he stayed at home, and he was probably making picanha on the grill all week. He didn't want the smoke, I guess.
I think Zach's turned into a car guy. Like every time I talk to him, he wants to talk about cars or trucks.
He's definitely he's a very young soul, but he's definitely gotten older in a lot of ways in the past couple of years since moving to Georgia.
Like really, Zach? What are you talking about cars for? We're talking about shooting. He's just getting old. Is what it is. I mean, well, he's nearly 50.
He's diversifying.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're counting down the years till vet.
So, Dominic, I know you have things to do. You probably have to go to work tomorrow. So I'm going to let you go, and I appreciate your time. Congratulations on your HOA at Texas State, and we look forward to seeing you at the next shoot for sure.
Thanks, Justin. It's a pleasure as always. Can't wait to see you soon.
All right, man. We'll see you.
Thanks for listening. For more episodes, go to our website, shotgunsportsusa.com. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Facebook.